You have been consuming wrong all of your life. There is a secret veil of productivity that you can access. Steroids for the brain. And the opening to Agartha starts with stims, my friend. So here is why you need to stop drinking and start stimming. Okay, look, now with that goofy intro out of the way, we will cover this topic more seriously through the lens of fitness, weight loss, muscle growth, and productivity. I currently hold the belief that stimulants, when used appropriately, far surpass alcohol in every single vector. They are more fun, less harmful, and they can actually be pushed to productive means. I mean, how often do you see a guy become productive after having a shot or two? You see, our current day work does not require us to be stupid and slow. Long gone are the days of factory work, the same repetitive process over and over again, cracking a beer open at the farm and sowing seeds. Sure, that maybe made sense a couple of 100 years ago, but nowadays we need to be awake, we need to be sharp and smart. And in the same way, how often do you see any type of stizzy smoker be productive? And look, I've smoked stizzy many times in my life, and all the creative thoughts that you get that you think are so productive and so creative, they're not creative at all. Really, next time you puff, go and write down those so-called good thoughts on a piece of paper, and then when you're sober, check them and see how ridiculous they are. Now imagine on the opposite end, popping an Uber charge and getting your ass to work. Why do people drink coffee in offices? Why do entrepreneurs use Adderall? Why do athletes use nicotine and caffeine? And why do elite soldiers get handed out Uber charge like it's goddamn candy? I mean, really, look into this. Now, since this channel is primarily weight loss related, we will cover the fitness aspects of this first. Then we will move towards muscle growth, then recreational purposes, and then lastly, all of the drawbacks condensed into one section of the video, so feel free to skip around to whatever part that you want to. So let's talk about weight loss. Since we're comparing alcohol to stimulants, this is a totally unequal fight. Alcohol has calories, stimulants don't. Alcohol destroys your body, stimulants less so. Alcohol destroys your brain, stimulants less so. Alcohol slows down metabolism, stimulants speed it up. And as a fun fact, did you know that Super Uber Charge was actually prescribed as a weight loss drug back in the day for how much it lowered appetite? And now look, I know I'm talking about really intense stimulants here, but for the most part, I want you to take into consideration that stimulants still apply to things like caffeine and nicotine and modafinil. You don't have to go all the way till the end to the notorious Super Uber Charge that I will be referring to as is, because I don't want to get this video age restricted like all the other videos on my goddamn channel. For the most part, what I want almost 99% of people to take away from this video is that 1, they should use a little bit less alcohol, and 2, use stimulants, primarily caffeine and nicotine if you're already using it, in a more productive way that actually gives you more beneficial results in your life and removes the addictiveness of it, which then bypasses all the good things that come from the substance. These are the main takeaways of this video. Like, in all seriousness, besides all of the jokes, if you just take this one thing away, your life will improve, and I promise you this. What about muscle growth? It's a scientific fact that stimulants are amazing for performance. Why do pre-workouts have caffeine? Why do pre-workouts have DMPEA? Why do Stim Junkie pre-workouts have DMHA and DMAA? Because put simply, they increase motivation, increase drive, increase performance, and increase your power output. This is a fact of the universe. If you take something that allows you to push harder and train harder, you are going to make more muscle. Now, one drawback to almost every single stimulant is that it causes vasoconstriction. It tightens up your veins and increases your blood pressure. So one way to counteract this is to take a vasodilator, which will lower your blood pressure, lead to bigger pumps, a better feeling in the gym, and make the stimulant more safe. So if you are taking a pre-workout, make sure it has some type of pump ingredient. And now on the opposite side, let's look at alcohol. Nobody takes alcohol for pre-workout, that's first and foremost, but this is where the real danger of alcohol really comes in. Just a single day per week where you are drinking will substantially lower your muscle growth results. You reduce the amount of muscle protein synthesis, you reduce your sleep quality, which then lowers your testosterone, it messes up your hormones, and this all plays into you growing less muscle than usual. Now look, stimulants also lower sleep quality. We will cover this at the end of the video, but look, I'm gonna give another W to stimulants here. And once again, I don't want you to come away from this video thinking that I am endorsing these very popular and very illegal stimulants. stimulants. They have their place, just like any other compound in the world has its place, it has its uses. But for the most part, for 99% of people, I'm talking about caffeine, I'm talking about nicotine gum, these legal things that you can use to enhance your performance day to day that won't kill you. Now let's talk about recreation. Ooh, this is a heavy subject because a lot of people aren't gonna like my views and this may get me in trouble with the law. Now look, there are two types of people in this world, those who like to be energized and those who like to be put down. I personally think recreational, legal stimulants are more fun than any type of depressants, but that's just my opinion. And look, if you like something that has the effects of alcohol, you can just take a GABAergic substance that doesn't destroy your body in the same way that alcohol does. So let me give you a little newsflash. There are substances that will trigger the exact same receptors in the brain as alcohol, but they're not an actual poison towards your liver and to the rest of your body. Really? Those exist? Oh, I never thought about this. Fucking retards, bro. I swear to God, people nowadays have like the IQ of a fucking toddler. Oh, really? There's alternatives to alcohol? No, but I'll just take the legal one because it's legal, so it must be healthier. The government's always right. Go online and search for legal GABAergic substances that you can buy. Now, I'm not speaking about legal substances. I'm literally telling you that there are legal alternatives to alcohol. There are things that will hit the GABA receptor, literally give you the exact same feeling as alcohol without any of the drawbacks. Now, does a substance having less drawbacks make it more addictive? Yeah. Are you more likely to become addicted to, prescription GABAergic substances than you are to alcohol? Yeah, most likely. But do you know why you're gonna get addicted to it? Because it has no drawback, so then you're lured into thinking that you can use it every day. If you're not using these things every day, there's no harm. So once again, do your own research, find the legal alternatives. I'm not telling you to do anything illegal. Follow the law of your goddamn country, but do not destroy your body just because you think that something that is legal is healthy. You see, the types of people that never learn about these types of things will argue with you that alcohol is good because it's not a drug. Because drugs are really bad. A pill, it's like unnatural and chemical, and like alcohol, it's like made out of real things and like sugar and yeast. But look, you know what else is natural? Stizzy is natural. Shrooms are natural. Morphine is natural. And so is super ubercharge. They're all chemical compounds derived from plants. But for some reason, people will never get this through their heads. And look, personally, I find stims to be more fun than alcohol. Why do most people drink? Let's be real. To loosen up, maybe some guys will drink to pick up girls. And I think that stims are better for almost everything that alcohol does, except for, the relaxation. If you are stimmed out of your mind, you are not going to be like, you're going to be sitting there like, dialed in. But let's say you're a young guy and you're using alcohol to talk to girls. Yeah, you can take alcohol to lower your social inhibitions, or you could just increase the amount of dopamine you have in your brain, which makes you more socially confident also. Then you have the reduced inhibition, but you're also not sloppy drunk. You make less bad decisions because on stimulants, you're not really high per se, you're not really sloppy, you're not really drunk, you're more just a higher functioning version of yourself. As long as you don't overdose the ubercharge, you're just sober you, but a little bit more confident and a little bit more awake. Now look, if you're an extreme person, you're the work hard and play hard type of person, all of the best play hard substances are various derivatives of ubercharge. You got the methylene dioxy super ubercharge, you got the 3mm ubercharge and the 4mm ubercharge, you got the basic ubercharges. And personally, I think when kept to a minimum, when you're a functioning member of society who doesn't party every single weekend and you party maybe once every 3 months, once every 6 months, then you can go a little bit harder than the people who drink alcohol every goddamn day or every weekend. But once again, this is just my opinion. At the end of the day, are you healthier if you are completely sober for the rest of your life? Yeah, you probably are. But look, let's be real. Most people aren't gonna do that. So if you're not gonna do that, I'm just telling you how I see things, and if you agree with me, you can take my advice or not. Now let's cover the drawbacks. Now look, I have glazed ubercharge this entire video, but let's get serious. When used incorrectly, these substances can permanently destroy dopamine neurons, serotonin neurons, and lead to permanent irreversible brain damage. For the rest of your life, if you have abused these substances, you may never be as motivated or as happy as you used to be before them. Now, I was the fun guy who said stimulants were all good, but we have to get serious here because a lot of people do permanently mess up their lives without even knowing it. Now look, some stimulants are more dangerous than others. Something like caffeine you can use in pretty high doses every single day and not see any drawbacks for years and decades. Something like modafinil, it's seen to be quite safe. Nicotine patches, nicotine gum, also quite safe as a stimulant. And even the so-called prescription Ubercharge that you can get seems to be safe in a lot of people when prescribed medicinally, for the long term. But that is personally where I would draw the line. You should not use hardcore stimulants more than once every 2 weeks in lower doses for work, and no more often than once per month when used in recreational purposes, because typically those doses seem to be higher and cause more brain damage. It takes around 2 weeks for your dopamine system to fully reset. So best case scenario, you use it sparingly, once a month at most, and preferably once every 3 months or once every half a year. And now let's go away from the Ubercharge and speak on more serotonergic substances like the also famous party substance MD Super Ubercharge. Serotonin takes 4 to 8 weeks to come back to baseline. So for anything that releases serotonin, you should wait 3 months or longer in ideal situations. So as I'm talking about this, we come to the conclusion that stimulants should be used, as sparingly as possible, right? But this is where the evil of stimulants lie. They are by far the most addictive substances that you can ever try. You may start with 10 milligrams of Ubercharge. Your homie has a prescription, he gives it to you. You're using it for work, you're using it productively. Okay, you are finishing 10 times the amount of work that you usually do. And that's where the danger lies. They are so effective that you don't ever want to work without them. You took it every single day for a week, and now that you're off of them, you find it difficult to focus. That's totally normal, but instead of waiting for your dopamine system to recover, you need to get another fix now. You cannot work without it. You find yourself upping the doses, 10 milligrams, 20 milligrams, 30 milligrams every single day, and since that becomes too expensive, you start looking for alternatives. You start scouring the deep web and figure out that if you buy Crystal Super Ubercharge, it may take you a very small dose to get the same effects of regular Ubercharge. And then you find yourself months down the road, pipe in hand, smoking crystal meth. So look, it can get out of hand. And so for that reason, I recommend almost everybody sticks to the substances that have less potential for recreational uses, like caffeine, like modafinil, and other nootropics. I think most people aren't mentally strong enough and equipped to handle the strong cravings and the intense productivity that the power of very intense stimulants can grant you. And look, me included, I am among those people. So if you want to start experimenting with some of these things, stick to the legal ones. I mean, do the ones that have a bunch of research and don't directly jump to an Ubercharge that's going to spike your dopamine 10 times above baseline. Look into nootropics and other legal stimulants that you can get your hands on. Now, another tip that I can give you is that if you are using stimulants for focus, try to cycle them. Caffeine will not build tolerance to modafinil, which will not build tolerance for DMPEA. So if you don't want to take time off from stimulants, use caffeine 1 week, then another substance the next week, then another substance the third week, and then go back to caffeine on week 3. That way you have enough time to reset your tolerance and you don't have to crank high doses of stimulants, which will barely give you the focus effects and give you more anxiety and other bodily drawbacks. And so lastly, let's go over some of the health side effects. First of all, sleep. The one thing that I recommend you do immediately before you try anything stronger than caffeine is get yourself a sleep tracker. If you're not willing to invest a couple $100s in a sleep tracker, this stuff is not for you. See what your baseline sleep is like, take the stimulant, and then see how your sleep was. If you notice that your sleep quality is dropping substantially, discontinue the use of the stimulant, because getting good sleep itself is a more powerful cognitive tool than 99% of stims that you can use. And if you still refuse to get a sleep tracker, then just be aware of the half-lives and quarter lives of the stimulants that you are using. Something like caffeine has a half-life of 6 hours. That means after 6 hours, your body still has 50% of the caffeine that you initially consumed. And so ideally, you should consume your last cup of coffee 2 half-lives before your sleep. So in the case of caffeine, that's somewhere between 10 and 12 hours before sleep. If you had 2 coffees 10 hours before sleep, you'd still go to bed with the equivalent of half a cup of coffee in your system. Now, caffeine is a bit of a light example, but let's say you pop an Ubercharge in the morning. The doctor prescribed you an Ubercharge, it's all okay. You pop one in the morning, extended release. The half-life of that is around 10 hours, which means you're kinda fucked no matter when you take it in the day. And that's why I recommend you don't take it more than once every 2 weeks. Because the sleep drawback of a daily Uber charge is not worth the dopamine release, in my opinion. I would rather get better sleep than shitty sleep and then pop an Uber charge. Another horrible side effect of stimulants is cardiovascular health. So just make sure you cover all of your bases. Make sure your blood pressure is in check. Make sure your heart looks healthy. Get that checked once in a while. If your blood pressure is off, don't use stimulants. Maybe hop on blood pressure medications if you still insist. But best case scenario, if it's destroying your health, don't use it. If you found this video helpful and you trust me enough, press the first link in the description and join our school group. There you will find more non-conventional courses on productivity, fat loss, muscle growth, and nutrition that will help you fast track your journey to success.